Oh, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Practitioner, one of my favorite days of the week. I just love being here, talking shop talk with all of you. Hey, Lori. So glad that you're here. Hello, hello, everybody. Hey, there she is, Lori. It's so good to see you. Hello, darling.
Hello. Good.
Hello. Happy Tuesday. Feature Tuesday or Tidbit Tuesday, as you call it.
Tidbit Tuesday. It's more than I was thinking about that. Like I like it because it rolls off my tongue, but I do get tidbits, but it feels very like big bits. You know what I mean? Like tidbit makes it feel like I don't want to diminish what it is by calling it a tidbit.
No, I don't think that you're diminishing it. What I'm hearing is that you have amassed so much so far that you probably know most of what we're talking about. And so you're grabbing pieces to fill in tiny bits. That's all. That's because you're a mastery graduate. Hello. Yeah. That's what happens when you're transitioning is the word I was gonna, but that's not the word I need. I don't know what I was saying.
I don't think I'm transitioning.
You're not transitioning for anything from anywhere. No, you're a Schatz method trained practitioner. I think I might have been blurring all those words together. So we know that's a deep dive. Hello, you can just boast about how much you know and how big badassery you're walking around with. That totally works for me.
Indeed.
Yeah. So welcome, Lori. Welcome, everybody. If you're coming in live today, perfect. I love it. If you're watching on the replay, also love that. In fact, I have been hearing through the grapevine that there are several of you who are watching replays every week, which I am just delighted to hear that you're immersing yourself in more training and that you're enjoying Training Tuesdays. That matters to me. And I also love it when you're here live so I can interact with you. So if you are watching on the replay and you would like to weigh in, please leave a comment below so that I can interact with you. I love to do that. And it's totally okay if you don't want to do that either and you just want to watch in. But I would much rather serve you. So welcome if you're live, welcome if you're on the replay. It's all great. If I have not yet met you before, hello for the first time. I'm Gina Schatz. I'm the developer of the Schatz method. And I train manual and movement practitioners in that method to support them in alleviating pain permanently from the source. So it's a pretty good run. I like it. I've been at it a few decades now. Actually, you guys, I have an announcement. This is March of 2023. It is officially 30 years ago this month. If you're doing the math, I started when I was 8. No, it's been a minute. I've been at the rodeo for a while now, and I totally dig it. And I know some of you have heard this statistic before in other places, and some of you heard it from me. The average lifespan in our industry is not very long, right? Massage therapist average career lifespan is 4 to 6 years. An average lifespan of a yoga teacher's career is not full time. And of course, that's only 2 of us. Movement and manual of all practices are welcome here. But just to give you, like a cross section, we don't really hang out for a super long time. There's a lot of reasons why that happens. A lot of reasons. Not an endless number, but a hearty handful of reasons. One of them is because we don't have enough information. We don't have enough, deep dive functional anatomy, and we don't have the strategic thinking to sort through all of that anatomy. So that's what we're here for. That's why we're here on Tuesdays, so I can support that, because you guys get to have a long, fruitful career. Super matters to me that you make a really good living doing really excellent work and don't kill yourself in the process. So that's what we're here for. That's what Training Tuesdays are all about. And the structure of Training Tuesdays, if you're new here, is I'm going to riff to you for about 20 to 30 minutes on something functional anatomy based. And then I open up the airwaves, if you will, the chat box, the mics, the videos for you guys to ask questions, any question that you have. And it doesn't have to be what I've covered today. It could be on some client work that you're doing. It could be on a misunderstanding that you have about anatomy or some clarity that you want around anatomy, anything that's in our domain of work. It could also be on professional development too. So if there's something in your business that you're looking for, here to answer and support you in all of those ways. Lori and I have been talking in the last few weeks that sometimes folks don't ask questions because you all feel like, oh my gosh, you're on the spot. And so I just want to offer us a new perspective. I'm actually on the spot when you guys ask questions. So don't you be worried. we're all in it together. If I don't have the answer for you, I will find it. And if I do have the answer for you, I want you to have it. So please feel free and courageous enough to come on and, you know, let me support you in that way. If you are here live and not on camera and you want to use the chat to type in your question, please feel free to do that. You can start that at any time and I will come back to the chat and answer the question as we go. If you're here and only want to come on mic just to ask your question and then come off, that's a little easier for me actually. If I hear your voice and your question, it's in its entirety. It supports me to answer you in the entirety. And also if you're here on the replay, type your question into the comments. Some of you direct email me, which I also love because I love to just have a one-on-one conversation with you. You're also more than welcome to leave it in the comments. I read them all and I will answer them. Okay. All right. I think we got all the housekeeping out of the way. You guys, I have such an exciting topic for you today. It came unexpectedly into my inbox just yesterday. I was receiving several text messages from a colleague in panic with an injury and lots of questions, lots of confusion, and the conversation rolled into today and more confusion and more need for clarity. And I was like, oh, hey, if one colleague has this question about their own injury, why not use this for our Training Tuesday? So yeah, so we're going to talk about a real-time thing, and it's about an ankle sprain, And actually, that reminds me, I'm going to look up the actual ligament that was revealed in the x-ray so that I can speak from exactly what she said. I'm pretty sure I remember, but I don't want to misspeak on what the ligament is. Okay, so my question for you before we even start is how many of you have, here it is, how many of you have navigated an ankle sprain of your own? Yeah. How many of you have navigated an ankle sprain of a client? How many of you don't actually have a clue what you would do to navigate an ankle sprain of a client? Sometimes that's also a hands up. So first off, just as we've said over and over again, injuries are different person to person because my body constitution and my history going into the injury and how I created the injury is unique to me. So sometimes what I need for the same injury that somebody else needs have some slight variances to them. And there's also some global, if you will, ideas and functional anatomy pieces of knowledge that we have about the body that are universal, meaning they apply to all bodies all the time, even with the nuances. So this part of the conversation already is where sometimes I lose folks in conversation or they get a little overwhelmed because they're like, oh, well, if there's endless possibilities, then I'm out. No, here's what I want to do today. I want to talk about an ankle sprain, particular ankle sprain. And while there are nuances body to body, there are some global ideas about an ankle sprain that we all get to know. If we start with the things that we all know, the way the body is designed, we will have a better chance of resolving it and being able to pick out the nuances as a client presents with them. So here's the backdrop. And what I would love for you to do, what I invite you to do is as I'm sharing with you the subjective part and the objective part in our SOAP charting, the S and the O of SOAP charting, as I'm sharing that with you about this particular client, I want you to start thinking in your own mind what it is that you're hearing and what you think is happening, and then what you would do to resolve that if this was your client, okay? And of course, we'll fill in the gaps together and we'll walk through the whole thing. But I want you to start thinking in that way because, again, that's the strategic thinking part, right? So there's no checkbox matrix. If this happens, it's always that. If that happens, it's always that. And that is where we get to stay in that space of like, curiosity instead of overwhelm when it comes to resolving pain patterns. And my belief is that most of the people who are here in conversation with me are dealing with pain, orthopedic pain, functional discrepancies, et cetera, or you wouldn't be here because you know that that's what I talk about. So in order for us to be there and actually create results, we got to stay in curiosity and out of overwhelm. Otherwise, we take ourselves out of the game before we've even attempted to resolve it, okay? All right, so here's the client. I know this client, she's a colleague and also has been a client, and I know her body very well. And so here's what I know. She's very active. She's a active moving human. She is very hypermobile, meaning that her ligaments are much more lax than a normal range constitution or a hypomobile constitution. And let me just pause here and say, if hypermobility is not something, or hypomobility, or the fact that that's ligament based is something that is clear for you yet, then you get to know that, because if you're navigating injuries, you definitely want to know that. It was a game changer for me and a big piece of how I trademarked this method that I'm teaching you from. So you really want to know about constitutions. If you don't yet have that and you want some training on it, we have tons of it. Please let me know. We'll get that for you. So you got to know about mobility, because that makes all the difference. I feel like there was something else I mentioned earlier too that I wanted to touch on, another anatomical idea, and I just lost it. Anyway, anything that I'm mentioning, if you're like, what did she just say? We've got it. We've got training on it if you need it. Okay. So don't take yourself out of the game. Just lean in and get some further training on it. Okay. So back to the client. She's a very active, a fully developed adult. She's got a lot of hypermobility in her body, which means lots of laxity in her ligaments. And she likes to stay mobile, and she's body wise. And just like a lot of us in this industry, staying inactive or bracing something or resting for a long period of time, or even heavily medicating when there's pain involved, is not where she likes to go. She likes to get to it and adjust the function and resolve it and move on. Okay. Oh, look who's here. Sweet Asia's in the house. All right, Asia, so glad that you're here. So, in traditional medicine, hey Asia, so glad that you're here. In traditional Western medicine, when there's a lot of medication involved, or bracing or resting, that's typically the path that we'll take if we're headed down that route. This is not what this client wants to do. She likes to stay moving and repair as quickly as possible, as naturally as possible. Okay, so while she was out walking, and I'm not exactly clear on what happened, but I know what the end result is. As she was walking, she deeply sprained her ankle, like rolled it hard, heard a pop, had instant pain, and didn't feel like she could put all of her weight down on her ankle. So this is kind of a problem. She was with her husband. She had her husband do a version of one of the functional assists that I teach in the method. She didn't have the whole thing down pat, but she gave it her best shot. So she had her husband squeeze her ankle, and she did dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. And when that happened, she heard a click and felt a little bit of relief, but it didn't completely take care of it. It wasn't the full assist, so that's why. It didn't completely take care of it, and then it swelled a lot. And then she sort of panicked. And that's when she texted me the first time. What do I do? My ankle's the size of a balloon. It really hurts. What do I do about it? My question for you guys as you're listening in is, what are you hearing so far? What are you hearing so far? What would be your best guess? Now, we cannot make full assessments on something that we can't see. So none of us are expected to have x-ray vision. So we don't want to make any guesses about what happened underneath that are permanent, like she broke a bone, she didn't break a bone, she sprained a ligament, she didn't sprain a ligament. We don't have the ability out of the gate without seeing someone to make that assessment. Okay. However, do you guys know how to determine whether there is a more likelihood that a bone is broken before an x-ray? Do you know the number one sign to look for to more accurately guess that a bone has been broken or fractured? Swelling is not the only indicator. So the client said that her ankle was very swollen like a balloon, and she sent this to me in a text message. What do you think the first question would be to ask if you're not sure something's broken? What are you looking for? And then the Jeopardy music plays. Can you all hear that in your head? Jeopardy music.
Is it weight bearing, Gina? Is it something about weight bearing? Although you said that I don't know if that's it, because you just said it was sprained and she couldn't put a lot of weight on it. So that might not be it.
So how would we know if it was broken? We can't know because we don't have x-ray vision. We don't want to jump to conclusions, but there's one telltale sign that the body will give us that's more likely that there's a break.
Is it either pain or out of alignment?
Thank you, Asia, for weighing in. Those are both great guesses, and they don't indicate a break or not.
Okay.
Bruising? Like quick
Yes.
bruising? Is that
Yes.
it? Bruising.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if in that very short period of time, the skin is contused, black and blue, there is a more than likely possibility that something is broken or torn, like torn, ripped, like muscle spindles or endpoints no longer connected. Okay. Otherwise, if it's just swollen, it's not necessarily broken. Now, again, that's not 100%. We don't have x-ray vision, so we can't tell for sure. Are you guys hearing a lot of background noise? Because I'm sort of in a loud place. Okay, hang on 1 second. All right, hopefully there's a little bit of a buffer there. All right, so we, again, cannot tell for sure whether there's a contusion or not, whether there is a break in the body. Cannot tell for sure. However, if a client comes to you and says, I have a lot of swelling in this one area and it hurts and there's no contusion, you can carefully tread towards supporting them. On the other hand, if someone has an injury, like this client rolled my ankle while I was walking, it's swollen and bruised within an hour or two, do not touch it. There's a greater chance that there's something broken. You can make it worse, okay? So right away, I know there's a chance we could lean in here. I don't know for sure, but there's a chance that we can lean in. What would be the next thing that you would recommend? Somebody comes and says, I rolled my ankle, I heard a pop, it's swollen, but it's not black and blue. What do you think would be the next thing, the very next thing that should happen?
Elevate or go see the doctor.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, make sure that it's in alignment. That's my initial reaction, to make sure that it if it popped, it might have stayed wherever it popped to. So to get it back into where it needs to be to reduce swelling and support healing.
I love that, Lori. That is exactly the end point. That is what we need to do to ultimately heal this ankle. And we don't know yet. And we don't know yet everything that's gone on, and she's not in our care. This is just over text. So I can't align her yet because it's over text. But yes, ultimately you absolutely get to put those bones back in alignment. We'll talk about that.
That's the down the road.
It's just
Okay.
2 steps down the road. Yep. And
Okay.
you know that's the solution. That's what we talked about at the beginning. You know your stuff. So your client's texting you and says, I sprained my ankle. It's not black and blue, but it's swelling. What do I do, practitioner?
Reduce the swelling.
Yeah. How come?
Because swelling, from my understanding, it goes there to protect. So if it's swollen, not nothing's going to move, but it's going to make it a little bit more challenging if there's swollen tissue to eventually down the road get it back into alignment.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Could be, absolutely could be. And what we know about swelling is that, yes, it's a protective. So we don't want to be like anti-swelling. It's a protective, but too much of it for too long creates changes in soft tissue that we don't want, right? So it's by nature, it's more acidic and all the things. So we do want it to be there to cushion, but we don't want it to be like engulfing for a long period of time. So a little bit of swelling, a little bit of cushion is good. And too much of it means that now we won't be able to move. And we know that ultimately to heal, we must move. The body's designed to move. It's not designed to be stuck. So if there's too much swelling, we won't be able to move it, which means we prolong the healing. So a little bit of swelling for protection, but not so much. And the body will just keep ballooning if it's left to its own devices. So the client said that she iced it. While she was texting me, she said, I iced it for 20 minutes on and 20 minutes off. What do you guys hear about that? Icing for 20 minutes on and 20 minutes off. Yay or nay? Yay or nay? 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off with a thermal agent. We talked about thermal agents. I think it's been a year though since we talked about thermal agents on a training Tuesday. Anybody know about thermal agents? And just welcome, Sherry. I saw you came in. Welcome. Okay, so thermal agents, moist heat or moist cold, are great for the body. In fact, it's much better than non-thermal, meaning like an electric heat pad doesn't penetrate as deeply as a thermal agent. and better to do it 10 minutes on and 10 minutes off. Why is more not better in a thermal agent? Why is more not better in a thermal agent? We're trying to get the swelling to be capped and not increase, or maybe even reduced a smidge. Why is more not better when it comes to icing or any thermal agent? Why is more not better?
You don't want to further irritate it or further exacerbate what's going on with that injury. So you go on and off kind of to even out the therapy that you're applying to that injured area.
Okay, Asia, cool. And tell me, why would it make it worse? Why would the cool, too much of it, make it worse, not better?
You could be irritating the soft tissue that you're trying to heal or help heal.
How would it irritate it? How would cold, if cold takes away the swelling, how would cold irritate it? You're right, and I just want to know more.
Yeah, I'm thinking through it because I've been through it, and I did the research and it told me, but it's escaping me right now.
Okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's important for us to know the why so that we can communicate it to the client. Because if left to their own devices, they're going to let their pain do all the decision making for them, right? And so if they're in a lot of pain, she's in a lot of pain. We've started with that. She's in a lot of pain. She heard it pop. She's uncomfortable, and there's swelling. She doesn't know what to do, but she does know enough to put ice on it. Too much of a thermal agent tells the brain that there's a problem. That part of the body is being frozen instead of cooled, and it will actually reverse and send more blood to the area that's being frozen. So 10 minutes on gives it just enough to calm down the swelling without putting the body on alert in that area, and then reversing the intention that you have with the thermal agent. It goes both ways, with both with both moist heat and moist cold. So too much moist heat does the same thing. It'll reduce the capillaries after about 12 minutes.
So let me ask a question. So we know that when more blood is going to that the blood goes to the area that's injured. If too much blood is at that injured area, or the brain is sending too much blood to that injured area, then what happens?
It warms up, which would add more inflammation.
Got you. That's what I needed to hear. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So that's
it
why
increases the inflammation. Okay.
Over time, long term, it increases.
Long term. Okay.
Originally, if it's a situation where you do need heat, right? When it's more muscle instead of ligament, when you do need heat, you do want to add blood, because blood's the #1 healing agent to the body. But too much blood adds heat and then inflammation, and now you're back to there's too much inflammation in the area, and now we're not in a healing environment.
Good to know.
Yeah,
I think I knew the first part, but I didn't know the second part. I did not know that.
Cool. Good. I'm glad you have that. And so now you know it. And so we get to explain it to our clients like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing ice. Great instincts on your part. Better, though, to do 10 minutes on and 10 minutes off instead of 20 on and 20 off. So interestingly enough, this client remembered 20. It's a 20-minute interval, 10 on, 10 off. And then she transposed the number and did 20 on and 20 off. So she was trying to remember. And look, if we don't quite remember, that's going to be even more challenging for our clients to remember. So we get to know, and we get to know the why so that we can explain that to her. And just in the interest of time, I'm going to share this. The reason why we want to know the why and explain it is because her pain is going to tell her, I'm in excruciating pain right now, and the only thing in my power is to reduce the swelling, which I think is a part of my pain. And so I'm going to vehemently go towards reducing that swelling, which means that her pain is going to tell her more is better. But physiologically, we know that's not the case. It actually reverses. So if I know the physiology that it will reverse and make it worse, she definitely won't do it then. She won't overdo it because she doesn't want to make it worse. So we need to, it's part of informing them so that they're empowered with good choices. It's not telling them that they're right or wrong. So there's a distinction there. We talk about messaging a lot in the training academy and the Schatz method, because the way we communicate also is part of our results. Okay, so she's rolled her ankle severely. We know she's hypermobile going in. She's an active person. She's hypermobile. She rolled her ankle severely. She heard a pop. It became painful almost instantly. And then at home, it started to swell, but there was no contusing. And she was 20 minutes on and 20 minutes off with cold, which is a great choice, by the way. So you just update that and say, actually, it's 10 minutes on and 10 minutes off. And the cold will do better for these reasons. Gentle and easy. She's not wrong. But for these reasons, because this is, I know what you're headed towards, to reduce some of the discomfort that the swelling is causing. The reason why swelling causes discomfort is because it's pressing on the tissues, right? There's not, we're made perfectly. We don't have a whole lot of extra storage space. So swelling, while it's great to buffer an area and create a protective bubble around it, the pressure from it can also create some discomfort. So we want it to like cap off at a certain point. Okay, great. Then she had her husband squeeze and she did dorsiflexion and plantar flexion in her ankle. She heard a little bit of a click. It felt a tiny bit of a relief, but it didn't ultimately take care of it. So then she's texting me. Okay, great. So I already know that there's a greater chance than not that it's not broken and that she didn't tear anything, but the excessive amount of swelling and pain is concerning for sure. And I'm not in the room with her. This is over text. So I haven't seen her. And none of us should make any assessments or ever any diagnoses. It's not in our scope, but we still need to know enough about the way the body is designed and its response to be able to send them towards next best choices. So what do you think the next best choice would be after icing? What would be the next best choice? So if icing is first, which is great, and you may have already been spoken here, so don't second guess yourself. What would be the next thing after icing? What would be the very next thing?
Did we already say it to warmth, like the thermal, or is it one or the other?
It's typically ice in the first 48 to 72 hours and then heat after that.
Got it. Okay. So not there yet.
Not there yet. Nope. She's sitting at home with her ankle up on a table with an ice pack on it, texting me, or you, because you're the practitioner too. What would you say to do next? What's the very next thing to do?
Just checking. So it's up on the table, so it's elevated, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She's not weight bearing on it. It's painful. Very painful. Not weight bearing. Swollen as all get out. Not black and blue.
Isn't this interesting that this is where I usually get to with folks, right? Like, okay, we did this and then ice it. And then I'm like, and then I go into the stuff about, well, just take it easy and do that. You know what I mean, Gina?
Oh,
like just, yeah, it's so interesting that I'm like, oh, this is where it sometimes stops, right? We get to a certain point, we talked about it. And then it's like, and then we go back into what we think we know instead of what we're talking about. Right? Yeah, it's so good.
Okay, so what do you think then? She's at home, she's nervous, she's in pain, it's swollen, she's got ice on it. Talking to me from a distance, what's the next thing? What do you recommend?
Then do you get it back in alignment after this? I'm like, eventually it's got to come there. That still feels a little early, but
oh, yeah. So why is it early, Laura? Why is it early to do alignment then? Why is it early? It is, and why? We know that's ultimately what has to happen, but why is it too early right now?
Is it because it's still, I don't know. Is it because the body still, does the body need to kind of calm down before we retrack it? No. Okay. What is it?
Let me read to you this one part of the text.
Okay.
I said, I asked, she told me all the things. And the first question I asked is it contused? Is it black and blue? We already talked about that here. Why do I need to know that? Why do I need to know if it's black and blue first thing?
Broken.
Right. It's not black and blue, so there's a greater chance that it's not broken than a chance that there is, but I don't have x-ray vision, so I don't know for sure. So her answer was, it's not black and blue, it's just let me see, it was a little bit convoluted, the texting. It's gotten, the pain's gotten worse over the last hour. It's not black and blue, but really swollen. I'm kicking myself. So, you know, she's like in her pain spiral. So it's not black and blue, but the swelling has increased in the last hour. And she's icing it. Why is it too soon now to align it? We know that's
because there's still too much swelling.
because we don't know if the swelling is because it's broken. There's no black and blue mark. So out of the gate, I'm like, it's probably not broken. Whereas if it was black and blue, I'd be like, it's broken. You got to go somewhere else. I can't help you.
So are you still questioning whether it's broken because there's still the swelling?
I'm still questioning if there's like a hairline fracture.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's why.
Yeah. And I don't want to manhandle that ankle and track it, which we know in our method, that's a pretty substantial assist,
right?
Which is amazing. It's substantial because of the way those bones are packed in the ankle. So I don't want to do that or recommend that she go get that done if I'm not positive it's broken.
Mm. And you're sorry, go ahead.
No, you.
So you're still, is it because she came back and said, it's still really swollen and I'm in X amount of pain? Is that why you're like, maybe there's something else going on?
Three things. Okay. I don't think there was something else going on. I just wasn't sure that there wasn't something else going on.
Okay. So that's why you paused on the next steps. Okay.
I was just like, hey, let's just get some clarity because her swelling had increased in the last hour. So if you've ever seen a joint or an ankle that's been broken, it just grows and grows. It gets to be like the size of a football. It's scarily big and usually very black and blue and like, wow, something's terribly damaged in there. So I can't see her. She's from a distance and her ankle swelling is increasing. Now, it might be because she was doing 20 minutes on and 20 minutes off of the ice, but I don't know for sure. It might have also been because there's a hairline fracture somewhere. So I'm not going to be roughshod about it. I'm also not going to waste a lot of time. So the very next step is to get an image, get an x-ray. And interestingly enough, she was texting me from an orthopedic physician's office. So I was like, sweet, perfect. So I just wanted to make sure it wasn't broken. And she got an x-ray and the x-ray showed an anterior fibular ligament sprain. ATFL, anterior fibular, no, not ATFL. She wrote ATFL, isn't that funny? Anterior fibular ligament sprain. Oh, I see, ATFL, that's what the doctor told her. Okay, cool, that's their shorthand for it. Okay, cool. So it's a ligament sprain. Is a sprained ligament a damaged ligament? Is there any permanent damage to a ligament that's been sprained?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, is there damage if it's outside of the way it's supposed to properly work? I'll say there's damage, but if it's a sprain, I don't think it's permanently damaged because with the therapies that the doctor's giving you, it can return back to its normal function and alignment.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're like, ooh, green light. We can do something. There's no break. There's nothing torn. There's no permanent damage. This is back in our lane, kids. We are green light, ready to go. That's why we needed that to be the second step.
Gina, I'm so excited that you gave me a ding, ding, ding.
Of course. Usually, all kinds of dings. Girl, you know what you're doing too. Okay, cool. So now we know so nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. She's in crazy pain. Her ankle's swollen. She's nervous. She's spiraling out in her own confusion. And the doctor says to her, go home and draw the alphabet with your ankle. I want you to keep it moving. And, but if it's painful, don't move it. So she goes home and says, wait, WTF, like, of course it hurts. Of course it hurts. Question for you guys. Why would the doctor, and which is I believe is the right call actually. Why would the doctor tell her to move the ankle and draw the alphabet? What does that do? What does moving the ankle and drawing the alphabet do? And he told her, this is what athletes do. This is why I'm recommending it, you know, like blah, blah, blah. But why? Why would you draw that? It doesn't matter if athletes do it. It doesn't matter if God and the angels do it. If your client doesn't understand the why, they're still confused. So why would the doctor say to draw the alphabet with the ankle? Why is that important? Think about the anatomy of the ankle. Why would that matter? Why would that be a good call?
Is it to get movement in all planes?
Yes, darling. Exactly. Ding, ding, Asia. Ding, ding. Because we know that the anatomy of the ankle are bones closely packed and stacked in a very tight organization. It's like river rocks at the edge of a bed. They're all packed. They look irregular, but they're designed on purpose. There's not a whole lot of movement in between them. And yet we know that in between two bones, no matter how closely packed there are, there's always movement. It's an articulation. It's by definition a joint. So there's a little bit of movement as we articulate our ankle in full range, but it's not meant to be wild movement like the elbow joint, for example. So there's a little bit of movement. Everywhere there's movement, where two bones meet, there's a ligament. So we know then that no matter, even if we can't see her in person, we know that when she rolled her ankle, two of these bones came wildly far apart from each other, which sprained the ligament in between them that holds them tight together. And that's where the problem is, which is why, Lori, you're saying, I got to get those bones back in alignment. Exactly. Exactly. So when the doctor says draw the alphabet, he's getting all the movement in all these little nuanced ways where these river rocks, these ankle bones, there's 8 of them, are all stacked together in a very uniform way. Close packed, like little, like the alphabet, but still enough movement available for them. Why is movement so important? Why is movement so important? Why is movement so important in the body?
Because it's healing.
How is it healing, Asia? How is movement?
It sends the blood to the impacted areas.
Sends blood to the impacted areas, exactly. And there's more. Why else? Why else is movement so important?
That's all I got.
That's all right. There's more. You got something, Lori? Why is movement so important?
I was just thinking about the rest of the body. If we don't move it, we lose it.
Yes.
Thing.
Yes. The atrophy process in muscles begins in 24 hours. If you stop using a muscle in its lever, stop contracting and lengthening it, the atrophy process begins. It doesn't atrophy in 24 hours, but it begins. The body is designed to move overall. Body is designed to move. That's why we have all this wild anatomy available to us. It's not designed to be stagnant. So it's really important to get it moving. Absolutely. And we don't want to allow restriction in the body or compensatory turgor in the body to hold the body too much in place, because getting past that can be some heavy lifting. So definitely within the first 24 hours, you want to track that ankle and get it moving if it's not broken. Okay, so she attempted to track it unsuccessfully because she only knew so much of what the assist is. She got confirmation that nothing's broken and it can be tracked, and her doctor's telling her to move it. But then he says, if it's painful, don't move it. And it's painful. Why would it be painful to move the ankle, her ankle, in that situation? Why would there be pain moving the ankle to draw the alphabet? If it's designed to move that way, why would there be pain? What would be causing the pain?
Is this where the misalignment comes in? Like, I know it's
yes, it is. So why would misalignment cause pain?
Well,
why does misalignment cause pain?
I'm like, well, duh, of course it does. But then I'm like, well,
how?
like, why? Right,
Yes,
right. I
yes.
mean, it's like, well, of course it's going to cause discomfort if you're not optimally aligned, but it's like, oh, well, but why really does it?
Mhm. Why does it?
Ah,
And by the way, while you're thinking, for those of us who are listening in, we talked about this in a functional anatomy formula in last year's masterclass, which is available. We talked about there's a reason why. There's a 3-step formula, and I walked you guys through the whole thing. Why does misalignment cause pain?
Is it because the muscles that's supposed to move, it's not, and it's pulling I think it's called compensatory. Am I saying the word right? Muscles to move. Am I
Yes,
saying
compensatory was the word.
compensatory? That's the word I'm looking for.
Yes, Isa, exactly. If the internal structure is out of alignment, the muscles that are meant to move those bones are moving off of a track. Think about it like your functional anatomy is like a train track. Everything's lined up perfectly. If you're off track, you're going to hear screeching on those wheels of a train, if we were a train. Yeah, so we need to be in alignment for the muscles to actually do their work as the lever system. And if they're not able to do their work, they give us a sign of like, hey, heads up. And that sign is discomfort or pain. Question for you about the ligament. Since the doctor zoned in on the ligament being the sprain, which is the cause of the issue in his eyes, we know that it's the alignment. But why would the ligament cause pain? Why would the doctor call out that ligament? But more importantly, what do we need to do about that ligament? The ligament is sprained. What do we need to know about a sprained ligament in her ankle? Yeah, it's not too different than the muscles. So think about the bones in the ankle being stacked again like river rocks, and in between these two bones is a ligament. She rolled her ankle and pulled the bones apart. Now the ligament that's normally this length is now being sprained and pulled at this length. Doesn't like to be pulled that much. It's got enough bandwidth to do this work, but we're asking it to be aligned over here. So now we've got muscles that are giving us feedback that something's off track, and the ligament that's sprained because the bones were pulled so far away from each other is still spraining. We got to bring the bones back in alignment to take that pressure off that ligament and get the muscles to have a chance to move the bones in alignment. So same concept. Slightly different soft tissue. Ligaments are not muscles, and we know that. We get to address them differently, and alignment is still the name of the game. That's the functional alignment formula that we talked about last year. So based on that, now what do you think is the next thing that she's supposed to do? Well, let me just intercept here. Her confusion was, my doctor said to draw the alphabet with my foot unless there was a lot of pain, but there is a lot of pain, and now I don't know if I should be doing the exercises. Can you see how the doctor didn't fill in the blanks for her to know like the qualitative point of the pain and what that's all about? And also, given how much sprain there is and where her bones are in place, it might have consistently been painful. Well, let me just give you a little bit more intel. I got this today instead of yesterday, but I still had the same answer yesterday, and it was just reconfirmed today. I just spent more time today explaining what the doctor said than I did yesterday. So her first doctor tells her, it's just a sprain, but it's just a sprain. I know you're uncomfortable. Keep doing the alphabet with your foot, with your ankle, with your foot. And if it's painful, don't do it. And if it stays painful for a week, come back in and we'll send you to physical therapy. And the client was like, so don't do it, but not if there's pain. But if there's still pain, wait a week. Like why would I do that? And his answer to her was, you're much more mobile than most of my clients who would just sit home and not walk for 2 days. She's like, yeah, but I don't want to do that because I know that every time I walk, I'm creating a pattern, because I taught her that. And I don't want to create a pattern and hobble along on my ankle. I want it to like be fixed. So if nothing's broken, how can we fix it? And the doctor sort of was like, well, that's my protocol. So she went to another orthopedic doctor yesterday, and he said, I wrote down the notes. He said, well, I agree with what the first doctor said. You should still move it unless you need a boot, in which case we would put you in a boot. And she said, how do I know if I need a boot? That's the opposite of moving it. You're telling me that you agree with moving it, but if you don't agree with moving it, then you do the opposite and make sure it can't move. I'm so confused. And the second ortho said, well, we would put you in a boot to create some stability. So do hypermobile constitutions need stability?
I mean, we need strength. I don't know if like stability to me with what they're talking about usually is passive. Like it's putting a boot on isn't strengthening. It's just like keeping it where it is. But then my muscles, aren't they going into atrophy? Oh man.
Yes, exactly. So we do need stability. When joints are hypermobile, there's lots of movement. We need stability from muscle strength, not immobility. Immobility is not stability. Immobility is not stability. They're different. So yes, of course she needs stability. She's got a hypermobile constitution. And then it clicked for her. So she's sending me, I'm going to read you the text. This morning, she says, it hurts pretty bad. What I said to her was moving in alignment is key after all the other things I just discussed with you. She says, okay, it hurts pretty bad and is making clicking noises. I'm going to come back to that. Why do you think it's clicking? And why do you think that made me like excited? The PT papers, the ones that she got as a handout from the doctor, says, don't do it if it hurts. The second doctor I saw yesterday said to move, and the paper he gave me says, don't move if it hurts. I called another ortho and he said, maybe give it a couple days with rice. And now you say to move it. She's like, I'm so confused. I have so many questions. So you could see I was like super not clear for her. Why do you think the clicking was exciting to me today? She's got clicking now on day 2, 12 or 18 hours later. Why is the clicking exciting to me?
Is it like this, perhaps the swelling's reducing and things are kind of shifting, like the body wants to get back in alignment, and with her move, hopefully she's moving it, and it's starting to figure it out.
Exactly. So the swelling has gone down. We're definitely clear. There's no break now. The x-ray, sometimes they miss it, but the x-ray said there was no break. And now today the body's like click, 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 trying to get these 2 bones back in place with the muscles, right? But she's hypermobile. So she needs a whole lot more muscle strength to get bones to move because her ligaments allow a lot of laxity, which is probably how she got them so far out of alignment by rolling her ankle. Lots of latitude in a hypermobile constitution. I'm sure she really did move those bones, and she's probably super uncomfortable. And yes, again, Lori, as you said, the key to resolve this issue for her is to get those bones back. That's why we use that functional assist. And we got to make sure nothing's broken before we do that. And now at this stage, we're not even onto a treatment plan. Now this client is inundated with data. She's got 2 different orthopedics telling her things that don't make sense. And now she Googled herself into the night. So this morning, the question is, oh my goodness, what if it's level 1, level 2? How do I know what level sprain it is? The internet's telling me, Okay, guys. The good news is that she knew enough to reach out. And just because of the timing of the text messages, I didn't respond with enough information for her late at night before she got on Google. This morning, it's the same conversation, the same exact conversation I'm having with you. It's good news that it's not broken. It's confirmed that it's not broken. The swelling was probably because of her too much cold packs, 20 minutes instead of 10. It increased the swelling instead of reduced it. Totally common. It happens all the time. Her doctor, 2 doctors told her to move it. But doctors who are orthopedics who do surgery don't do movement. They do surgery. So they don't know about the atrophy process. Maybe in 24 hours, they don't do alignment like the way we do. They just do different stuff. There's no shade being thrown. I don't do surgery. And they're not throwing shade on me either. We just do different things. What we know is that if there isn't anything permanently broken that needs surgical intervention, those practitioners are not going to give her the information that she needs for this lane that she's in. Just like I wouldn't be able to give her information for the surgery lane. It's not my lane. So she's tapping on sources that don't have the answers because she's not in their lane. They both cleared her to say, you're good. Go home and move your foot. She's like, but there's pain. How come there's pain? And will I make it worse if I move it? And I'm saying to her, no, you won't make it worse. However, you need to be aligned. Those two river rock bones need to be packed back together. So I'm at a distance from her. You have all the information that I have. What would you tell her to do? What's the next step? Jeopardy music. What's the next step? You guys have this. You both said that the pain would be caused by muscles trying to make movement happen on two bones that are misaligned, and the ligament being stretched. Ligaments don't stretch, but being like lengthened way past its comfort zone and its assigned role also contributes to the pain. So what's the result? What's the solution? What do you tell her to do next?
Is now where's
Yes!
her husband? Now is where he can
Now!
assist her. I'm like, it's
Now!
gotta be. Like, really, everything else is exhausted. It's gotta be get back in alignment now.
Yeah. So how do you tell her
Okay.
to do that? What do you do? What's your solution? You got to get those bones aligned in your ankle. You explain the river rocks, you explain the ligament, you explain the hypermobility, you tell her why movement is going to cause pain, even though movement's the answer. Like, what do you tell her to do?
Well, didn't she have her husband initially try to track it?
Hmm?
Yeah. Have him do that again?
Sure. What's another option? That's one option. It's
If
viable.
he's not right, like, yeah, what if
he
he's
knows
not
how.
there? Yeah.
Yeah. If he's there and if he knows how, what's another option?
Question, is all movement painful? And I ask that question. The physician said move. She said movement cause pain. So you can move a little bit, decrease the level of movement up into that pain point and move in that area. And as the pain decreases, increase your movement up to that pain point, and then continue that cycle until you have that movement pattern where it's returned to where it should be. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, Asia, and I like it. And so what is your reasoning for move up into a certain point and then move into this point? What are you functionally creating in that recipe?
So I'm thinking if you move straight into the pain, you could re-injure, cause more damage. So you strengthening, you're strengthening those muscles to allow that movement to increase a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more.
Okay. And so can you strengthen muscles if the bones they're attached to are not aligned?
Well, it might be the wrong muscles.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They will strengthen, but it's not going to be the right ones.
Okay. So if we know that the muscles around those two bones need to be strengthened to pull them back in place, but we're thinking that they may not be able to strengthen.
Okay.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. And here's the distinction. In somebody who's not dramatically hypermobile, that might be exactly the recipe, because muscles always pull, they don't push. So if I move the muscles and they pull, they could, with enough strength and enough integrity in the ligaments, be strong enough to pull the bones back in place.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that could be an incremental way to do it. Absolutely. Love it. And not for a hypermobile constitution.
Got you. Okay.
She's already come into the gate without enough stability, enough muscle
Okay.
to hold those bones in place. So that would be a very long road for that type of constitution.
Okay.
I love the idea though. So what do we tell her to do? Laura, you said tracking. If her husband was able to, what are the other options?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think about, how to get it if she's only there by herself.
Mhm.
Can she, I'm trying to think if I could track my own ankle. I don't know. Something about,
It's so obvious.
I know, is it standing on it? Like just standing? No, nothing like that.
Bones
Okay.
are out of alignment.
Huh?
Bones are out of alignment.
Yeah, I was,
Mhm.
yeah.
So the bones being out of alignment are causing the pain if it's caused by the ligament, and the bones being out of alignment are causing the pain if it's caused by the muscles, and the bones being out of alignment prevent the muscles from strengthening. So what is the solution?
Oh, get the bones back in alignment and strengthen.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, but then that's what we're back to. Like, how does she get the bones back in alignment by herself?
She schedules a session with you.
Oh, duh. I mean, come on.
Do it for her.
Jesus.
It's so obvious.
I know. And,
That's when you're like,
yet
okay.
so far away.
Right. That's when you're like, okay, babe, come on in. I got you.
Oh,
Totally got
okay.
you. I'm going to do my functional assist that I know from the method, and I'm going to do it, which is what she started with. Remember? She remembers having this done years ago, and now her day in the sun to roll her ankle, but she wasn't trained in it, so she didn't exactly know what to tell her husband how to do. But I know how to do the assist. You know how to do the assist. She gets to schedule a session. And of course, I'm not in town where she is right now, so I said, go get it aligned. Go to a chiropractor if you have to. Get those bones aligned. Get those river rocks put back in place so that you have a chance to take the pressure off the ligament and stop straining it. And you have a chance to contract the muscles, like you said, Asia, and get some strength there. And she's like, oh, I get it. And then she brilliantly came back. Love the strategic thinking. She brilliantly came back and said, I got it. Oh, wait, so many questions. If my ligament is overstretched, how's it going to stay in alignment? How's it going to stay in alignment? And it's right back to what we just talked about here. As we're problem solving how to solve it for her, it's the answer. And I said, great question. That's the plight of a hypermobile constitution, even without a strain. Muscles move bone, got to strengthen it. And the only way to do that is move once it's aligned. You got this. Let me know, blah, blah, blah. And then she called me from the chiropractor's office and said, okay, I'm going in. And so, yeah, so fascinating, right? Think about, did that feel simple to you? I know we talked for an hour about this case, but that's because we had time for thinking. Does it sound simple to you, though, to solve a really dramatic ankle sprain? Does it?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of it. I just went down through my list. I've got like 4 little steps in addition to all my other stuff. But yeah, yeah.
Totally solved. Makes total sense functionally. We've made sure that we're not going to create more damage first. That's the first step. And most of the airtime that was spent with this client was clearing up confusion and informing about anatomy and how things function. And we even allowed space for the specificity of her constitution. So remember, we started our conversation today saying there's a little bit of nuance depending on the person, but there's more generalities and global rules that we know about alignment and function that can apply all over the place before you have to get specific about any particular client. Cool. That was so much fun walking you guys through this. Do you have any last minute questions on any of it?
This was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the engagement, the critical thinking piece of it, how you got to break down to the finite detail and kind of connect the dots to figure it out. Is good.
Yes, break it down to the details, connect the dots, and boom, create a treatment plan that, by the way, seems like, oh, how'd she do that? It was so easy, right? That's what our clients say when they come and experience the work. So yes, so glad. I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed the interaction. I'm not happy that she sprained her ankle, and I'm super happy that we got all this airtime and extra training. So, okay, so that takes us to the top of the hour. I'm super happy to have spent all this Q&A with you guys. I love the engagement too, Asia. I'm gonna think about how to make that happen more often on a Training Tuesday. So that wraps us up for today. I want to thank you all so much for being here and for continuing to immerse yourself so that you can be better practitioners for the lucky people that you serve. They are super lucky to have you. If they haven't told you yet this week, I know that they are because you're here. So thank you so much for the great work that you do in the world. Please share this with any colleague that you think would benefit from any of the information that we had, or even from a client, right? Sometimes having a client weigh in on their own body and wisdom really matters too. Although Training Tuesdays really is for practitioners. So please do invite your colleagues, share it, add comments or questions in the comment section. If you do have other comments and you're watching on the replay, I will happily answer them for you. And with that, I bid you adieu for another great week. I will see you guys next Tuesday, again, noon Eastern. Until then, have a great week. Continue to do great work in the world. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.